Long ago, before the sands of Egypt whispered their secrets to the winds, a prophecy was etched into the stars by the gods themselves. It was said that in hushed tones, the gods warned of a woman whose beauty would be unmatched, but whose love would bring ruin. "Beware the one who seeks her hand," they murmured through the rustling palms and the flowing Nile, "for love shall bring ruin." These words spread like wildfire through the kingdom, striking fear into the hearts of even the bravest men. The prophecy became a shadow looming over the court of Pharaoh Ramses III, where whispers of doom followed one particular servant of the queen. This prophecy set the stage for a tale of mystery, danger, and forbidden love, leaving all who heard it wondering if such a curse could truly exist. In the heart of the palace, amidst golden walls and towering statues of the gods, stood Nefertari, the queen's servant. Her beauty was otherworldly. Her radiant smile could light up the darkest corners of the palace. Her piercing eyes seemed to hold the wisdom of the ages, and her graceful presence commanded attention wherever she went. Yet there was something haunting about her charm. Villagers spoke in hushed tones of how her gaze seemed to invoke the wrath of Hathor, the goddess of love and vengeance. Some claimed they had seen strange omens when she passed by, sudden gust of wind, the flicker of a flame, or the distant cry of a jackal. Her allure was undeniable, but so was the fear she inspired. Was she a gift from the gods or a curse upon the land? No one could say for sure, but her presence stirred both admiration and dread. As word of Nefertari's beauty spread, suitors from across the kingdom came to seek her hand in marriage, but none returned to tell their tales. A noble prince, known for his bravery, was last seen wandering aimlessly in the scorching desert, his mind lost to madness. Another suitor vanished near the banks of the Nile at sunset, his boat found drifting empty under the blood-red sky. Stories of these disappearances spread quickly, each more chilling than the last. Some believed the suitors had angered Hathor, while others whispered of darker forces at play. The villagers dared not speak of it openly, but the question lingered in every heart. What happened to those who dared to love her? The mystery deepened with each passing day, drawing more men to their doom. Fear gripped the kingdom as superstitions grew. Villagers prayed fervently to Hathor, begging for mercy and protection. Warnings spread like wildfire. Parents forbade their sons from approaching the palace, and traders refused to sell goods to anyone associated with the cursed servant. Priests burned incense and chanted prayers, hoping to appease the angry goddess. Yet, despite their efforts, the disappearances continued, leaving behind only unanswered questions and growing dread. Was Nefertari truly cursed, as the prophecy foretold? Or was there more to her story than met the eye? The people of Egypt were left to wonder, their imaginations fueled by fear and uncertainty, setting the stage for a tale that would test the limits of love, fate, and divine will. The court of Pharaoh Ramses III was a place of breathtaking beauty. Golden sands stretched endlessly under the blazing sun, shimmering like waves of fire. The Nile flowed nearby, its waters smooth and sparkling like liquid gold. Towering statues of Horus stood guard at every corner, their stone eyes watching over the bustling palace. Intricate hieroglyphs covered the walls, telling stories of gods and heroes from long ago. Servants hurried about, preparing for a grand royal feast. Plates of fresh fruits, roasted meats, and sweet honey cakes were arranged on golden trays. The air buzzed with excitement as musicians tuned their instruments and dancers practiced their steps. It was a world of splendor and majesty, where even the simplest tasks felt like part of something divine. This was ancient Egypt, a land where mortals lived in the shadow of the gods. In the heart of this opulent palace lived Nefertari, the queen's servant. She was known throughout the kingdom for her beauty, but there was more to her than met the eye. Her smile could light up the darkest room, yet her eyes held a deep sadness that no one could explain. She moved with quiet grace, her every step deliberate and calm. People whispered about her mysterious past, saying she was touched by the gods or perhaps cursed by them. Some believed she had angered Hathor, the goddess of love, while others thought she carried the blessings of Isis. Despite her kindness, fear lingered around her. Men who dared to approach her spoke of strange dreams and unexplainable misfortunes. Nefertari herself seemed unaware of these rumors, or perhaps she chose to ignore them. Her sorrow ran deep, hidden behind her radiant exterior, leaving everyone who met her both captivated and uneasy. Setka was a warrior known for his bravery and ambition. He had fought many battles and earned the respect of his peers. Yet when he first saw Nefertari, all thoughts of glory faded from his mind. Her presence stirred something within him, a longing he could not ignore. Setka knew the dangers of pursuing her. Whispers of curses and divine wrath followed her wherever she went. But his heart refused to listen. He found himself torn between duty to the gods and his growing desire for Nefertari. Every time he saw her, his resolve strengthened. He told himself that true love could overcome any obstacle, even the anger of the gods. Determination burned in his chest as he vowed to win her heart, no matter the cost. Little did he know, his journey would test not only his courage, but also his faith. Among those who watched Setka's growing obsession was Isis, the wise priestess. She was a woman of great knowledge, respected for her connection to the divine. Her voice carried authority, and her words often came true. One day, she approached Setka with a grave warning. "Fate does not forgive those who meddle with its threads," she said. Her tone was calm but firm, sending a chill down his spine. Isis explained that some destinies were meant to remain untouched, especially those tied to the gods. Her warning weighed heavily on Setka's mind, but it did not deter him. Instead, it fueled his determination to prove that love could conquer even fate itself. Feelings for Nefertari. The curse surrounding Nefertari was no mere rumor. Suitors who pursued her vanished without a trace, leaving behind only whispers of their fate. One nobleman was last seen near the temple, his face pale with terror before disappearing into thin air. Another was found wandering aimlessly in the desert, his mind lost to madness. Prayers offered to the gods went unanswered, fueling fears that Anubis himself had placed the curse. Some claimed they heard the low growl of jackals in the night, whenever someone dared to approach Nefertari. These eerie events tied directly to her, raising questions about her true nature. Was she truly cursed, or was she a victim of forces beyond her control? The mystery only deepened, drawing more men to their doom. As Setka prepared to pursue Nefertari, the stakes grew higher. Could love truly conquer fate, or would it lead to ruin? The warnings of Isis echoed in his mind, but so did the image of Nefertari's radiant smile. He knew the gods did not take kindly to mortals meddling in matters of destiny. Yet he also believed that love was a force powerful enough to challenge even divine will. His heart raced with anticipation and fear. What lay ahead was uncertain, but Setka was ready to face whatever trials awaited him. The question remained, would his love be enough to break the curse? Or would it seal his doom? The audience was left eager to find out how his journey would unfold. Deep within the temple archives, hidden behind layers of dust and forgotten relics, lay an ancient scroll. Setka stumbled upon it while searching for answers about Nefertari's curse. The scroll was brittle, its edges crumbling as he carefully unrolled it. The hieroglyphs told a story from another time, a past life, where Nefertari had been a mortal woman betrothed to Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Her beauty and devotion had caught the eye of Hathor, the goddess of love, who grew jealous of Osiris's affection for her. In her wrath, Hathor vowed that Nefertari would never know love again, cursing her to eternal solitude across lifetimes. Setka felt a chill run down his spine as he read the words. It all made sense now: the strange disappearances, the fear surrounding Nefertari, the whispers of divine retribution. This curse was not just a random act of fate, it was personal, born from the jealousy of a goddess. The revelation weighed heavily on him. He realized that breaking the curse would require more than courage. It would demand a confrontation with Hathor herself. The scroll's discovery connected the dots between Nefertari's haunting beauty and the tragedy that followed her wherever she went. Setka knew he had to act, but the path ahead seemed darker and more dangerous than ever. Setka spent days seeking Hathor's favor, hoping to appease her anger and lift the curse from Nefertari. He visited every temple, consulting priests who burned incense and chanted prayers in her name. At dawn he offered sacrifices of honey, milk, and lotus flowers, laying them at the feet of her statues. Each ritual left him more exhausted but no closer to success. The gods remained silent, their indifference weighing heavily on his heart. Frustration gnawed at him as his efforts yielded nothing. The priests warned him that Hathor was not easily swayed, her pride too great to forgive mortal interference. Yet Setka refused to give up. He began to notice small signs that hinted Hathor was watching him. A sudden breeze would scatter his offerings, or the flame of a candle would flicker when he prayed. These subtle gestures felt like tests, as if Hathor wanted to see how far he would go to prove his devotion. Setka's desperation grew, but so did his determination. He vowed to do whatever it took, even if it meant risking his life, to save Nefertari. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Nefertari found Setka sitting by the Nile, lost in thought. She sat beside him, her eyes filled with sadness. For the first time, she opened up about her deepest fears. She confessed that she believed loving him would bring him harm, that the curse was too powerful to break. Her voice trembled as she spoke of the guilt she carried, knowing that those who sought her love often vanished without a trace. Setka listened intently, his heart aching for her pain. He reassured her that he would not abandon her, no matter the cost. But deep inside, doubts lingered. Could love truly conquer a curse placed by a goddess? Was he strong enough to defy fate? Their conversation deepened their bond, but it also highlighted the enormity of the challenge they faced. Nefertari's selflessness touched him. Her willingness to push him away to protect him showed the depth of her love. As they sat together under the stars, both knew the road ahead would be fraught with danger, yet neither was willing to let go, clinging to the hope that their love could overcome even the wrath of the gods. As days passed, strange omens began to appear, filling the kingdom with unease. A blood-red moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows over the Nile. Jackals howled in the distance, their cries echoing through the night like warnings from the underworld. Sudden sandstorms swept through the village, disrupting daily life and leaving everyone on edge. The villagers whispered that these were signs of divine anger, proof that Hathor was watching and preparing to strike. Setka and Nefertari felt the weight of these omens pressing down on them. They couldn't ignore the feeling that something terrible was approaching. Each strange event heightened their tension, making them question whether their efforts were futile. Were the gods testing them, or was this the beginning of their punishment? The air grew thick with dread, and the once vibrant palace felt heavy with foreboding. Both knew they were running out of time to change their fate. In his search for answers, Setka discovered a hidden shrine beneath the temple, its entrance concealed by vines and shadows. The air inside was cool and damp, carrying the faint scent of incense and decay. Venomous snakes coiled around the pillars, their eyes glinting in the dim light. Intricate carvings covered the walls, depicting scenes of Hathor's wrath and the punishments she inflicted on those who defied her. At the center of the shrine stood an altar inscribed with dire warnings. Those who disturb this sacred space shall face the fury of the gods. The words sent a shiver through Setka, but he knew he couldn't turn back. This was the place where he might find a way to break the curse. His heart raced as he stepped closer, each movement deliberate and cautious. The snakes hissed, their bodies shifting as if sensing his presence. Despite the danger, Setka felt a spark of hope. If he could decipher the shrine's secrets, he might save Nefertari. With a deep breath, he decided to enter fully, ready to face whatever trials awaited him. Setka stood at the entrance of the forbidden shrine, his heart pounding like a drum. The air was thick with tension, and every step he took echoed in the silence. He could feel the weight of the gods watching him, their presence pressing down on his chest. Trembling but determined, he walked deeper into the shrine. The walls were covered in ancient carvings of Hathor, her eyes seeming to follow him wherever he went. At the center of the room stood an altar, adorned with golden lotus flowers and flickering candles. Setka fell to his knees, bowing his head in reverence. He spoke aloud, his voice steady despite his fear. "Great Hathor, I offer my life in exchange for Nefertari's freedom. Let her curse be lifted, and take me instead." As he finished his plea, the air grew heavier, and an eerie silence enveloped the shrine. The flames on the candles dimmed, and a cold breeze swept through the room. Setka knew Hathor had heard him, and now he waited, his breath caught in his throat, for her response. Suddenly, the room filled with a radiant light so bright it forced Setka to shield his eyes. When he looked up, Hathor stood before him, her form beautiful and terrifying. Her golden crown gleamed, and her eyes burned with power. Her voice echoed like thunder, shaking the very ground beneath his feet. "You dare to challenge the will of the gods?" she demanded. Setka swallowed hard but did not back down. "I do this out of love," he replied. Hathor studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke again. "If your love is true, prove it. Retrieve the sacred lotus flower from the depths of the Nile. It is guarded by Sobek, the crocodile god. Fail, and both you and Nefertari will perish. Succeed, and I shall grant her freedom." The gravity of the task hit Setka like a wave. He knew the dangers of facing Sobek, but he also knew he had no choice. With a deep breath, he vowed to complete the task, no matter the cost. Setka dove into the Nile, the cold water shocking his body as he descended into its dark depths. The river was eerily quiet, the only sound the gentle current pulling him deeper. Suddenly, a massive shadow loomed ahead. Sobek emerged from the darkness, his eyes glowing like embers and his teeth gleaming like daggers. The beast lunged at Setka, its jaws snapping shut just inches from his face. Setka swam frantically, dodging each attack with quick thinking and sheer determination. Sobek's tail whipped through the water, sending waves crashing around him. Setka grabbed onto a rock to steady himself, his lungs burning for air. Sobek circled him, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Summoning all his strength, Setka pushed off the rock and swam toward the sacred lotus flower glowing faintly in the distance. Sobek roared, charging after him. Just as the beast's jaws closed around him, Setka twisted sideways, narrowly escaping. With one final burst of energy, he reached the flower and plucked it from its resting place. Sobek let out a deafening roar, retreating into the shadows as Setka swam back to the surface, battered but victorious. Back at the palace, Nefertari paced anxiously, her eyes fixed on the Nile. She couldn't bear the thought of Setka risking his life for her. Tears streamed down her face as guilt consumed her. Falling to her knees, she prayed to Isis, her voice trembling. "Great Isis, I am unworthy of such devotion. Take me instead. Let Setka live." Her heart ached with conflict. Her love for Setka was undeniable, but so was her fear of being the cause of his death. She felt trapped between her desire to protect him and her longing to be free of the curse. As she prayed, she realized that her love for Setka was worth any sacrifice, even if it meant giving up her own life. Her resolve strengthened, but deep down, she hoped it wouldn't come to that. Setka returned to the shrine, clutching the sacred lotus flower tightly in his hand. His body was battered, his clothes torn, but his spirit remained unbroken. Hathor appeared once more, her gaze softening as she saw the flower. "You have proven your courage and your love," she said, her voice no longer harsh but calm. She raised her hand, and a warm light enveloped the shrine. The curse that had haunted Nefertari for lifetimes was finally broken. Setka felt a wave of relief wash over him, knowing that Nefertari was free. As he left the shrine, he imagined her smiling face, her eyes no longer clouded with sorrow. The journey had been perilous, but it had brought them closer than ever. With the curse lifted, they could look forward to a future filled with hope and happiness. Setka stood before Hathor, his hands trembling as he held out the sacred lotus flower. The air shimmered with a golden light as Hathor accepted the offering. Slowly, the weight of the curse lifted from Nefertari, her eyes filling with tears of relief. Yet, Setka felt a pang of bittersweet realization. He understood now that love could not be forced, it had to come willingly from the gods. His journey had taught him humility, showing him that even the strongest devotion must bow to divine will. Looking back on their struggles, he saw how far they had both come. Nefertari was no longer the fearful woman she once was, and Setka had grown from a determined warrior into a man who truly understood sacrifice. Their bond had been tested, but it had also become unbreakable. For the first time in her life, Nefertari felt free. The guilt and sorrow that had haunted her for lifetimes melted away like frost under the morning sun. She forgave herself for the sins she believed she had committed, realizing that she was not to blame for Hathor's wrath. Setka's unwavering bravery and devotion had shown her that she deserved love and happiness. As she walked through the palace gardens, the scent of blooming flowers filled the air, and the sunlight warmed her skin. Her transformation was complete. Was no longer the tragic figure bound by fate, but a woman at peace with herself. Her heart swelled with gratitude for Setka, whose courage had given her a second chance at life. Together, they symbolized hope and redemption, proving that even the darkest shadows could be chased away by love. The story of Setka and Nefertari was a reminder of the grandeur of ancient Egypt, where mortals lived in the shadow of the gods. Even the mightiest warriors and the most beautiful maidens were subject to the whims of divine forces. The Nile flowed endlessly, carrying stories of triumph and tragedy, just as it carried the hopes and fears of those who lived along its banks. Human desires clashed with divine authority, creating a delicate balance between fate and free will. In this eternal dance, mortals learned that their strength lay not in defying the gods, but in finding harmony with them. The audience was left with a sense of awe, respecting the interconnectedness of all things. The tale ended with a powerful lesson. True love conquers all, but not without sacrifice. Setka and Nefertari's journey showed that courage, faith, and selflessness could overcome even the most insurmountable obstacles. Their story was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of love. As the sun set over the Nile, its waters glimmering like liquid gold, the river seemed to whisper the stories of those who had come before. Triumph and tragedy flowed together, reminding everyone that life was a tapestry woven with both joy and pain. The image of the endless Nile lingered in the minds of the audience, leaving them with a lasting impression of hope and reflection.